Boot it up, lights go green. Controllers ready, enter the scene. From builds to battle, stats to strats, breaking down the games, yeah, imagine that. No safe takes, no reload, every level deeper on the Sean and Zay show. Turn it up, lock it in, match begins, let the talk begin. Sean and Zay, hit play, let's go. Game talk loud on the Sean and Zay show. No pause, no lag, all control. This is game time on the Sean and Zay show. Strap in, squad up, take your seat. Sean and Zay. Every week, boot it up.
Hello, and welcome back. I'm Zay,
I'm Sean.
and welcome back to Warhammer Wednesdays. Please like and subscribe for more. Today we will be going over Horus Heresy, Book 1, Horus Rising. I had completed the book a couple of weeks ago now. I am currently on book number 5.
Astounding, really.
Um,
That's astounding, let it be known, because I just finished book 1 after a week of listening to it.
and oh my gosh, have I been turned on to something just glorious.
Oh, it's so good.
Up of until recently, I've only been listening and watching the lore on YouTube's. Thanks to Luetin. I really love his videos. It's just absolutely informative to anything you could possibly want breakdown in Warhammer. You know, he's not a sponsor of the channel or nothing like that. I just like to mention him because he has always been
Because
a
we
relatively
love him.
good source of information.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly.
You should really check it out. And personally, I love audiobooks and stuff, right? Do you
Mhm.
not? And the good thing is that Horus Heresy, Horus Rising, book 1 is on Audible.
All the books are on Audible.
There's 154 of them, I do believe.
Astounding.
But I do believe some of them, I was doing some digging, some looking into, and there's, what's it called? There's like a bunch of short ones. They're like 40 minutes long.
I think those are like different books of like a different series. I know some of the books are prequels, and I think some of the books are sequels to the heresy event of Horus Heresy.
It could be. I don't know. We'll have to check it out. Oh, and forewarning, this video may contain spoilers of the books. So, forewarned, you were warned previously ahead of time. So, anyway, like in the beginning of the book, what was your first thoughts of the book?
I was blown the hell out of the parking lot because it was such a great and astounding setup. To me, the reason why I think it was such a strong intro is because Warhammer fans know what Warhammer is. It's war. It's nothing but war and bloodshed and murder. So what's the best way to captivate that audience? By giving them exactly what they wanted: war, bloodshed, and murder. The book starts with the conquering of a planet led by Gabriel Loken, the main character of this story, of the series, to be more precise. And it is glorious. I think personally, my favorite visual was the Titans, or Knights, as some people call them, coming over the lands, and the way they're described with the sun behind them, so they come out as black
the
silhouettes.
silhouettes.
Oh, dude, that's so cool.
And the fact that they couldn't cross a mountain range.
We don't talk about that. That's the one thing I didn't understand.
They just removed the mountain. I would
Exactly.
guess.
They have the technology. We have the technology. Like 41st millennium, and you can't go over a fucking mountain. Or I guess 31st millennium, actually.
Oh, it's the 41st millennium. Oh, no, I guess
No,
you
no,
would
it's
be
1,000
right.
years past.
10,000 years.
10,000 years, yes.
Anyway, let's break it down. Gabriel Loken, and then he's a part of the Lunar Wolves. And then you got, crap, what's his name? The dude from the not the Sons of Horus, but the Emperor's Children.
You're talking about Lucius.
Yeah, Lucius,
With the
yes, Lucius.
Emperor's Children, yes.
He's also in the book. In the book I'm in, it's kind of revolving around him at the time.
Mhm.
I won't go into spoilers for you or anybody else. I'm not that far into it. But so far, it's just absolutely mind-blowing on how brotherly they all were too.
Something I want to bring up real quick is Lucius, since we just brought up his name. What a crazy dude. Like, okay, so for
Right.
those who don't know, Lucius is part of the Emperor's
He's the
Children.
leader of the Primarch of the Emperor's Children.
Yes, I believe he's the chapter master, I believe, or of it. I don't know. I'll have to do some research about it, but he's a very, very important character to them both before and after the heresy. And after the heresy, he's super weird. He wears this armor that if someone kills him and they have any emotion, whether it's pride, sadness, anguish, anything, any emotion, they literally get their souls snatched by Lucius, and Lucius just comes out of their flesh. Um, he also has like this weird tentacle arm, and he's a fine swordsman, and also he's a cannibal, and he does hardcore drugs. So crazy person. But also, even before the heresy, he's weird. Like he makes strange comments. He's talking about how he's just gonna kill everything. He toys with the enemy when he gets his hands on them, or
Which shows their dark sadistic side that they
yeah.
start to become.
Like, I'm starting to think, like, did no one see the writing on the wall that Lucius would have made for a great enemy for the, a great ally of the Chaos Gods and whatnot? Like, nobody kind of went like, yeah, this guy's kind of fucking weird.
The world eaters, though, explained in the book, are just phenomenal. I think the way they're
um,
described is absolute butchers and mastery of close quarters combat, showing absolutely no remorse or emotion for anybody.
I don't believe they were in the first book. I do believe it was all that were included was his, um, definitely the Luna Wolves. They even go over their name change as well into the Sons of Horus. The Emperor's Children were confirmed with Fulgrim and what, or not. Fulgrim wasn't in the book. He was mentioned
Now,
though, and
mind
then
you, I
we
read
had
this book
Lucius.
like 2 weeks ago, and I've absorbed a lot of knowledge since then.
You read
So
a lot of the books too. I only read the first one, which is why it's like really fresh in my mind. In fact, I even have notes here that you'll probably see me jump to every now and then. And Blood Angels, Sanguinius was in the book. That's right. Oh my goodness, man. I don't know if we should go like in order of like start of the book to the end. Do we want to do that, or do we just want to jump from random part of the book, random part of the book,
random.
random part?
We're gonna try going over without spoiling it too much. I think because, like I said, I'd have to. I'm doing this from memory. You got it fresh.
Um, this isn't too big of a spoiler, because this doesn't go over something like a death or something monumental. But in the book, um, something that breaks my heart is the fact that Horus openly says that Sanguinius is his favorite brother. And throughout his time with Horus in the book, we see them hug, we see them laugh together. There's even a really cool scene in my head, or in the book that I envisioned very well in my head, of Sanguinius messing around with Horus by throwing a fruit at him, and Horus catches the fruit, eats
I do
it right
remember that.
there. Oh my goodness
Yeah, it
gracious.
was bad, and this was in the Legion when they were. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
they were
Secret
on
Legion.
the ship. They were just hovering over, I want to say Murder, but maybe it was the other planet. But the fact that like there's such a bond between Sanguinius and Horus makes it so heartbreaking because we all know what happens. We all know what happens. You don't know Warhammer 40K unless you know what happens to Sanguinius.
Hmm.
Oh my dear lord, the entire time I'm just like, no. It's so heartbreaking, bro.
We would definitely have to reread this series too. Like for real, I just was amazed.
Mhm.
I just sped read through everything. A lot of the times I listened to it, I was working, and parts of it got interrupted, so I might have missed things here and there too.
Mhm.
But dude, I have it, the book and everything, and I can't wait to do a reread eventually because I know I'm a rereader. Like
Mhm.
I have another book series that I re-listened to. I listened to a few times. Um, but anyways, I'm getting lost in thought here.
I'll just simply ask, are we ready to get into potential spoilers and get into the meat of the book?
Yes,
I think so.
I think so.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the story follows Gabriel
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 Loken.
Loken. How did I butcher that? I just said it earlier. um, and his encounter and his time in participating with the Luna Wolves. It follows his campaign of fighting alongside his fellow Luna Wolves, fighting against this planet that has a god emperor who they believe is a god emperor. It follows the conquering of the planet and the occupation. Then it kind of goes over to Lucius's kind of sort of perspective and his time on the planet of murder and his time with the emperor's children and trying to save the blood angels because there was a huge problem that was going on the planet. One of the blood angels company masters, I believe is what they're called, basically did what was called the drip fed effect, essentially sort of throwing a few soldiers into the front lines. They die, and then they throw a few more soldiers in, and then they die, rather than sending the full army or full retreating of the army. Sorry about hitting the mic. And then eventually it goes back to Loken. There's a few interactions between the Emperor's children and the Luna Wolves. We then kind of see a sort of party form within the Luna Wolves of, how do I put this? It was sort of like a meeting, like a club, one could even argue, of a conglomeration of soldiers. It didn't matter about rank or your titles. It would be everyone gets together and talks about things that are important to them or things we're discussing
Openly, without persecution.
repercussions.
Yes,
Exactly. That's
that was the
very
thing. It
important
was a
part.
secret legion that the only people who had a coin were allowed to enter.
That's right, and that comes
And Garvey and Loken wanted no part of it.
at
He
first.
thought, yeah, at first, but because of his strong beliefs in the truth that only people, what was it?
The Imperium Truth.
Yeah, the Imperial Truth that only men who are basically up to no good or who are against the Emperor, who are plotting and deceiving in secret. That's basically the gist of it. Is
Mhm.
that stuff is frowned upon in the Imperium. They prefer the truth at this time in 40K, or the the early days. This book takes place before the heresy.
In
But
fact, they believe in the Imperial Truth to the point that it obscures what the real truth of the situation is at hand, especially concerning of the Immaterium,
mm-hmm.
which is another. We'll get more into that in a little bit later.
It's the fact that this whole heresy, from my knowledge and your knowledge, is that Horus was on his deathbed, right? And was lied to by a demon.
Yes, I believe so. I think it's not canon, but it's theorized it was a Zeech demon, especially due to the fact that obviously Zeech is all about manipulation, lies, deceit, changing things.
And without spoiling, you may or may not find that confirmed or denied.
So once again, a theory, but it's very plausible due to the history of Zeech and how he goes about things.
Yeah, he shows you the partial truth, but not the reason for it happening.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty.
Anyway, please like and subscribe. We do this every Wednesday. And feel free to leave a like, a comment, or if you have any information that we may or may not be familiar with, please leave it down in the comments below, and we will try our best to reply to them, and we will get back.
Mm-hmm.
Another interesting part about the Horus Heresy series is just the depth that they go to show you, like, just I can't
The
go
imagery with the wordings and
no,
stuff like that.
I'm trying to not say too much without giving, because I know you haven't read it. Maybe new people who haven't read it, without putting them off, or maybe just not even showing these. These books are all on Audible, by the way. So if you don't have time to sit down and read a book, pop an earbud in. I would say
I agree. That's
you
a
can
really
do
good way of putting
anything.
it.
I would say
Mhm.
I work and listen to books all day.
I do the same, but I also like to go for occasional walks. That's where I actually finished my book.
Oh, did you have notes or something
I
on
do.
that?
Yes, I do have stuff in line. So let's start with one. Let's start from almost the beginning of the book. This is just after the planet was just conquered, and this is now in the occupation. Let it be known.
Do you remember the creatures that were described? The eight-legged creatures of murder.
Of murder? Yes, yes, I did.
Yeah,
The
dude, that would be
arachnites.
freaky. Fighting the
Super
giant
freaky.
spider-looking things.
Not
Even
anymore.
as an 8-foot, 400-pound beast of a man in power armor, I'd be running for the hills, dog. Like that would be trade. That'd be heresy, though. You'd be shot.
But what's really scary though is the fact that their armor gave very little protection because their blades were so sharp, and I don't
They
know
cleaved
how.
right through the Astartes armor,
I mean, even
and they spit venom too. They
that's
spit
right.
acidic venom.
hmm And
Of course it does, because it's Warhammer. Everything spits some side of venom,
exactly.
or has some sort of way of killing you horribly.
hmm And what's really interesting is the fact that the blades of these creatures, as well as the spikes in their carapace and stuff like that, it's so sharp that even Lucius cut his hand as he was holding one of the fallen arms that he was able to cut off of one of those arachnites.
I almost thought that they were encountering the Tyranids at first, and then I had to read it, and I listened to a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, these are described as like there's not multiple different kinds. They're just
More like
they all look pretty much the same.
Spiders and stuff like that. Yeah, and the only reason why I didn't think it was Tyranids is because I do know this, and this is a fact. The Tyranids don't come until much later in the series. They come in the 41st millennia, just before the Indominus period, which is like when
Wasn't
everything
it? I
else
thought
is happening.
they came during the tearing of the Great Rift.
Well, no, I think it is believed though that the tearing of the Great Rift is what was like attracting them, I believe. But it took them years and years and years and years
You got to
to finally
remember,
travel all the way
we
to
get
the
lost in
galaxy.
the lore and the knowledge, so our information may not always be right too. So we are just super huge nerd fans.
Exactly. That's a
We
very
just
good
like
way to put it.
gossiping and talking about what we and going and giving our own personal perspective of it too.
Exactly. We're only human, right?
Right.
Made in the image of the God Emperor.
And most of this story, it's told from this perspective of Gabriel Loken for the most part, and I won't say but okay, I will say this: the characters in the books change, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're mentioned, but the point of view is different.
Mhm.
That's what you're gonna expect from these series, and that's what is confusing, and that's why it's easy to get lost sometimes in this book. Like for me, I had to. I sometimes didn't fully understand what was happening sometimes.
Mhm.
Like that's why I say rereading or re-listening to is definitely in the future. But I just finished the Flight of the Eisenstein, which was awesome. That's
cool.
fresh in my head right now, and I wish I could go over that. But you don't read fast enough.
Let's just start with Horus Rising. It's a good book. We could that's what discuss.
I know, but I feel like you're doing most of the talking because I don't have it fresh like you do.
Well, that's why I brought questions, or at least like things that are worth talking about. So, speaking of which, they don't actually have a name for this. I had to come up with a name for this. I call it the Samus incident. All right, now really big spoilers. So, like, if you are like interested in getting this book, click off this video right now because you're gonna really want to do that. So this is your one and final warning. Click off now if you don't want spoilers. I had to come up with a name for this. I call it the Samus incident. So, right after the planet was conquered and they were holding occupation forces, eventually a sort of rebellion starts up all over again, where they are how the military forces of the rebels are not housed in the cities, but in the mountainside. So,
Oh yeah, I remember that. You're talking about when got Loken is making his way through the forest and stuff to the mountain ranges, and they come across that Astartes. Is that what we're getting into? Or is that what you're trying to refer to? Because I need to know, like, kind of ahead of time.
Sure.
And I guess, like,
Let me help you
is that
out.
what?
So they reach the sort of fortress that's in the mountains and they enter it. Then there's a little bit of resistance, but they eventually clear it out. Then they eventually come across a room. If I remember correctly, there's a pool of water in the center of it. Surrounding the pool of water is trinkets, gold, copper, silver, stuff along those lines. And there's writings about it's religious text about a so-called like demon, sort of like Satan-like figure known as Samus. Samus is the man next to you. Samus is within you.
Oh,
Samus
that
is
incident,
your
yes.
worst nightmare. Samus will eat
Samus
your
is all
bones.
around you.
Exactly.
Yes, that part. That part kind of it sent chills down my spine when we were listening to it because this kind of like I feel like I remember what you're talking about now. This is kind of like the introduction to chaos.
Chaos,
Like
yes, it is. It's actually the Imperium's first ever encounter with chaos, believe it or not. If you take away, of course, the Emperor's like own divisions and stuff like that. So, besides that, this is the first ever documented, at least, encounter with the warp and whatnot. Um, so what happens next? Eventually, one of the soldiers of the Luna Wolves, if I remember his name, it is. I know it's like right around here. The problem is I wrote too many notes.
did you use Chat GPT to take these notes?
No, I actually wrote them down, but then I had ChatGPT help refine them. So yes and no.
It's an awesome tool, isn't it?
It is. It is. Sejanus. Sejanus was the man who cracked under the stress and magically became warp infused and kept on calling himself Samus this, Samus that, proceeds to kill a bunch of the Astartes around him before mutating. Or no, no, no. He was subdued, brought on to the Vengeful Spirit, which was a horrible idea, before he then is transformed into a demon and slaughters even more people than before. And then, well, eventually he was finally killed.
He was. I can't remember who killed him. Was it? It was Loken who.
I believe it was Loken, if I am correct. And actually, I believe it is because Loken is forever scarred by it. Yeah, I mean, he literally saw one of his best friends and close soldier and comrade because Loken, he leads a platoon.
Spoilers,
of
probably, by the
soldiers.
way.
Yeah, very big spoiler. Literally, get off this video now if you haven't already. If you want to read the book for yourself,
If you haven't already, if you already read the book, please stick around.
please do. We enjoy your company. You know, sit down if you will. Anyways, um, but it's in fact actually that part of the book is monumental because it forever scars Loken and it forever twists his vision and how he sees um, men, Astartes. It changes also two even bigger things. Number one, the Imperial Truth. Is there anything known as gods, demons, or any of that stuff? Because the Imperial Truth includes the idea that there is
Even
no
in
gods.
modern day Warhammer, most people don't know of stuff like that because ignorance is bliss.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know it exists, it doesn't hurt you.
Exactly.
Like I said, most of the populace lives in blissful ignorance of that.
Mm-hmm. Very well said, might I say. um, and it forever changes his view on also the war, and it creates a almost, how I put this, a like a dying need to know more. He can't set it off to the side. He needs to know more, which has its ups and downs in the later parts of the book, and I'm sure in the later parts of the series, I'm sure it will have its ups and downs. Anyways, two questions. Number one, what chaos god do you think inflicted itself upon Sejanus, unless you think it's Chaos Undivided? And the second question is that I had, if you were in Loken's shoes, would you have shot Sejanus before he even turned into a demon? While he was when he was just a man and he killed an Astartes, would you have killed him? Which question would you like to start? Which chaos got inflicted upon him, or would you like to start?
So
with
I
if you were Loken?
think if I can remember, or if I don't, if I had to take a lucky guess, I think it might have been Zinch influencing and tricking them. But as far as for yes, because but at the time, brother Astartes finding each other at that time was virtually unheard of.
Mm-hmm. It was a horrible.
It was unthinkable.
Yeah, it was such a heinous crime and such a heinous idea of thinking that you would turn on your own brother. Not only would you be legally persecuted, but you would be
You would
socially
just be shot on
shunned.
sight.
Yeah,
You'd just be
exactly.
executed on sight by your Primarch.
And even if you didn't end up getting just executed, you were socially shunned. I mean, even like, people make mistakes all the time in the book, and they pay the price for it. If not through a legal jurisdiction, then through social, how do I put this, social outcasting and whatnot. We see this with the commander of the Blood Angels, who uh, kept on drip feeding his soldiers into the lines of the Arachnites on Planet Murder, and he was completely shunned. He barely escaped legal persecution, but he was completely just hated by everyone, both
Mm.
not just in the Blood Angels, but also with the Luna Wolves and also the Everest children. Literally, no one would accept him at that point.
Mm.
Forever shunned, forever disgraced, and he forever dishonored the Blood Angels. Um, Now, my opinion, I actually think it was Nurgle who inflicted that upon Sejanus. Now, I believe Zeech actually does play a part later in the book. For instance, the burning of that library.
Mm-hmm.
That I think was Zeech, especially because Zeech actually has this
I
affiliation
remember
with
that
fire.
because one of the what are they called? The interpreters? Is that what they're called?
Yes.
Or yeah, one of them was badly burned in it.
Oh, that's
And
right. I forgot all about that
yeah,
part.
it was a her, I do believe. Yeah, she.
But the reason why I believe it was Nurgle who was inflicting it upon him of Sejanus was because when they got to the ship and they the vengeful spirit, and they unloaded his body, and he's just sitting there almost lifeless, and he comes back to life. His body morphs and changes, and what really stood out to me was a prolonged tongue, his belly opening up and spilling out. Um, I think
You
his
know what? I think
intestines
you
wrapped
actually
into
might
a
be right
tongue.
about that
He got
because
a
I.
horn as well. Those were signs of Nurgle corruption, and that's why I believe is Nurgle.
Fun fact: without too much spoilers, Nurgle comes more into play in book 3.
Really?
Yes, it
Oh,
does.
I'm excited, dude. Oh, I'm getting so pumped up already.
But as far as from the beginning of the book, it takes place from the story. It's Horus talking to the Remembrancer on his deathbed. Before there's stuff that happens between here and there, and we'll explain that when this dude finishes book 2 of False Gods.
Yes, I did.
Anyway, what else did you have to add? Did you have anything else to add?
Well, of
Like
course
maybe
I
towards
did.
the middle of the book at all, or
Mm-hmm.
like I said, this book is 12 hours long, and I read it 2 weeks ago. So
Mm. Let's talk about something that I genuinely like laughed out loud when I heard. Lucius versus Loken, the fight in the cage. Oh my dear lord, that was the funniest shit I've ever read in any book ever. Do you remember how that fight ended?
Lucius was victorious. I know that, but I can't.
He was punched in the face. It was meant to be a duel of swords, and the entire time, what happened was Lucius was fighting a different emperor's children. They were going back and forwards, blades were smacking, blah blah blah. And Lucius eventually, yes, he was victorious in that fight, and he was proud, he was boastful, he was like, "Look at me, I'm just
Oh
the
crap!
best." Because the emperor's children are very
Yes,
boastful.
they're very proud warriors. Very arrogant too.
Very. And I think it was Abaddon who I guess was just trying to toy with Loken. He basically says, Loken, go fight him. Logan was like, I'm not going to. And then Lucius was like, well, you have to. Why? Because Abaddon said so. And then everyone else who was part of the Luna Wolves was like, yeah, you're like one of our best fighters. Go prove the Emperor's children that the Luna Wolves are better. So Logan enters the ring. He prepares himself. He gets his sword ready. He stands in a fighter's position. Lucius gets himself ready. Boom! The fight starts. Lucius prepares his blade. He goes immediately onto the offensive. He's sticking out his blade towards Loken. Loken just steps slightly off to the side and just not even using his sword, just simply using his fist. Boom! Right into the face, and the fight ended right there. Lucius was pissed.
I remember that now. He fell down, whatnot. Hold on.
Yes.
I was trying to remember something about that because of what you were saying about the funny part.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember laughing at that too.
I thought
He
it was
was
so
just
funny.
infuriated and he felt insulted and
Mhm.
whatnot. And he was like, that's not a proper duel.
Well, he took it as not just a dishonor to the emperor's children, but more importantly, a dishonor upon himself that he was physically punched in a sword duel. And what's also really funny is the entire time when Loken is getting ready, he's like, "I'm not gonna fight fair. This won't be just a fight up with swords." But Lucius, he either A, didn't take his threat seriously, or B, he thought he was talking about something more like philosophical. Like,
Lucius wears Terminator armor too, doesn't he? I can't
uh,
remember if he does or
I
not.
think maybe I don't think it's Terminator armor. I think it's either A, just standard Astartes, or B, it's
The prime.
Grievous or Gravis armor, I think is the word for it. Um, I play tabletop, so I know at least a little bit of the stats and whatnot for these things. Um,
I'm
but
glad you're the big nerd here.
what can I
I feel like
say?
you've been doing most of the talking. I remember the book, but I
It's
can't
okay.
remember it freshly like you do right now.
Well, that's why I ask you a question. You put your 2 cents in, and I hear you speak and whatnot. And when you do talk, I love hearing it. So I'm all for it. And that's the thing. We're just having fun here at the end of the day, more than anything, really.
More than anything, it's about the fun, not necessarily if we get it right too.
Exactly. I honestly, I could say
And
something
feel free to
completely
always
different.
correct us too.
Exactly. Hey, you know, put something in the comments, helps the algorithm, and plus we can respond to it any day of the week, and we'd be honored to. We'll give you even a shout out to your username and everything. I think that would be very well fitting.
Eventually down the road too, me and Sean would like to play a game on maybe on live one of these days when I have to get my own minifigures personally.
I would need more.
I need more.
I don't have enough. I only have the starter set.
Anyway, more key important things to go off of in the book is just take your time with it. Basically, it's confusing. It was for me. That's why, like I said, he's doing most of the talking
For
this
me,
time.
exactly. For me also, it's kind of funny because although I did try and pay attention to like when it would just be two characters talking and stuff like that, with like for instance Loken and the girl, the reporter girl that is in his chamber, where they go back and forwards of his perspective then and his perspective now. Um, like I did try paying attention, but even then, I get kind of
Some
like
of the
a little
conversations do
exhausted.
drag out long
A
too. Like
little bit, but it's okay because the payoff is the fighting. Because then they get right back into the meat, and it's just
but
like
sometimes
blood and
it
murder.
just goes like they'll be like, "Yes, we've arrived on this planet." Oh, now it's been 3 weeks later though.
Mhm. They did that especially with the occupation and stuff like that. That was a little bit disappointing. How they kind of were like, "Yep, we conquered the planet. Okay, now a little bit of time
Yeah, you
later,
just get
here's
nothing.
the
You
occupation."
get nothing in between there. It's just yep.
It's like,
Here we are.
how did these people submit? Did they rebel? I mean, they eventually would rebel, but like, what was the lead up to the? I shouldn't say what's the lead up to the rebellion, but what was the aftermath of the planet being conquered? Did the people just accept their new overlords? Um, did they, fight harder? I think there is actually a quote in the
If
book
you
that
weren't
did
human, though, yes, you were getting invaded. If you were human, they tried to.
reason with you,
Yeah,
but if
most
you
of the
were
time
so
you will listen. You will hear we tried to reason, or they didn't want to accept the Imperial Truth, so we went to war with them.
exactly. And actually, now that you mention that, one of my favorite perspectives, I should say, maybe quotes of the book, is when Loken, this is really at the early beginning, this is right after the planet was conquered. Loken is talking to, it's not Abaddon, it's one of his best friends. I wish I could remember. And he's with them, and they're talking about the planet that they just conquered. And Loken asked a question of, couldn't we have just left them alone? And that's when his friend looked to him and said,
Could
if you saw a boy drowning in a lake.
I remember that conversation, but like you said, I couldn't remember how it went. But I remember it. It's like would you help? Like, or would you just walk? You would probably say it better because it's fresh, but please continue. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, it's quite all right. Zay. We're having fun here. If you saw a boy drowning in a lake, would you rescue him? Well, of course. Well, good. And if that boy refused and tried fighting against your mighty strength, against your armor, would you let go? Well, of course not. And very well, that's the same with us.
Yes, I get
are
that.
saving them from themselves. It's like, wow, that's a very authoritative thing to say, but damn it.
It's
am I
like
for
giving
it.
unwanted help, is what you're saying.
Exactly. These people are essentially being subjugated and conquered. Yes, for the better, technically speaking, but also it's a genocide. The way they even describe the conquering of like them shooting a bunch of bullets at the Astartes, and it's just they shoot one bullet and the person splits in two. It's like,
Yeah, it gets very descriptive. I love the chain sword fights,
Oh.
especially when they say they carve it through the Xenos.
they describe the chainsword too, like it's an animal, like how it says that its teeth met resistance and ate its way through the victim, like it's an animal.
Mhm.
Oh, dude. Chef's kiss, dude. And the chainsword is my personal favorite melee weapon in the Warhammer 40k universe, followed somewhat closely by the power sword. I think swords in general are really cool.
I think the power fist is really slept on, though.
Maybe
You
I
see
like
it,
the
you can't
Sharp
get
Talons
so
one.
you play Space Marine 2, right?
Yes,
How many times in a match, say you play a game of Annihilation, do you see somebody actually using the power fist?
literally only like twice in my entire time playing it, and one of those times is I used it, but it was an accident. I think I meant to equip the freaking power axe instead. And I just
Yeah, I'm not
misclicked.
that high a level where I can use the axe yet for the bulwark, was it? Yeah.
Yes, that's the class, the bulwark with the they have every single melee weapon except for the combat knife, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they do.
I don't think so.
Yes, they do.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I know they have every single weapon. I know the sniper class has only the combat knife. I know that they don't have any
But
other
they had
melee
the
weapon.
they had the heretic knife too. And they should have the combat knife.
I'll have to I'll look that over, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway, we're kind of getting a little off track here but the book was really good, in my personal opinion. I would definitely give it a re-listen to in the future. I'm just trying to remember stuff so I can have some of my own input because I'm a liar. I read the damn book.
Well, let me ask you, what did you think of let's go to the start of the book. The opening scene when Loken is the first person to enter the so-called God Emperor's chambers, and he sees this old frail man, um, and they talk. And the old man is like, "Well,
Because
I'll surrender the Horus, but no one else."
he wanted to speak to the Emperor himself. This is what he wanted to do. He's like, I will only surrender to your leader.
Exactly. But how do you feel?
I think that book, now that it's kind of refreshing me back, I think when back to what you said about it being Nurgle, I think they were trying to lure the Emperor there to try to corrupt him.
Probably,
But
or just
when the
trying
Emperor
to
left, because the Emperor is gifted with the ability of foresight, right? But he can't see all the details, more like bits and pieces of it. And Horus was a mirror image, or supposedly his favorite son, mirror image, War Master, the dude. He chose to lead the crusade after he left. Do you think he was Horus? Because this is basically what it's as after all the events of him being promoted and stuff, and without spoiling, like I said, I'm trying really hard sometimes not to spoil some
it.
stuff that I remember.
I already said Sejanius' death and chaos and warp. I think at this point, to say any spoiler would be just fine. It would be fitting.
Yeah,
because it's hard to beat around the bush. It really is.
It really is. And I'm also getting pretty tired too, so we might have to wrap this podcast up soon too. I'd hate to end on anything that we haven't gone over, which is probably quite a bit in the book, but
Then
I'm definitely gonna have to give it a reread just so I can prove to you that I read it.
I'll simply ask at least one last question. Horus, what do you think about him?
He was definitely on the right path, and he made some poor No, I take that back because certain events, and I can't say, are leading up to him falling, and you'll get more from Loken too. It goes into the Eastman 3 and 5 massacre, the drop site massacre.
Oh yeah.
Soon.
It's
And
I just want to say it's really funny with you, like you know the future, you know all the books and stuff like that. I feel like you're Magnus and I'm the Emperor, and you're like trying to like warn me of what's ahead, but it's just like no,
you do.
no,
Magnus
stop
the Red
it.
is mentioned in the book a few times, but he's more of a brief side character for right now. And later in the books, it even like I was surprised like to like find out that certain events have passed, like his shunning, his like what almost led to his fall,
Mm-hmm.
or what started his turn to chaos. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But it hasn't really gone into that yet from where I'm at, because let me just pull up I am on Fulgrim. That's my book. Yeah, it's book 5, Fulgrim.
Well,
It goes, yeah, Horus Rising, False Gods, Galaxy and Planets, the Flight of the Eisenstein, and the Fulgrim. I've been using ChatGPT too to help me kind of understand just a little bit. Like, it does a relatively decent job, I think. Like without because it just uses a Google search half the time anyway for results and verification. And
we can wrap it up here.
yeah, I'm
Ladies
getting pretty
and
tired
gentlemen,
too.
Thank you for
But-
joining us on
But
this.
yeah, thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe. Next time, I'm going to give it a reread just because we need something fresh. But we're going to review the second book, False Gods.
In the following week, ladies and gentlemen, I was your host, Sean, and
Zay,
I think it's time to say goodnight.
the Emperor protects.
Amen. I was there.
Lights
Day
go green,
Horus.
controllers ready, enter the scene. From builds to battle, stats to strats, breaking down the games, yeah, imagine that. No save takes, no reload, every level deeper on the Sean and Zay show.